Yesterday, the 7th of December 2022, legendary patriot Raila Odinga held a mega rally at the historic Kamukunji grounds in Nairobi. There are those who may argue that it was not really a mega rally, but that's not really the point, because there were huge political implications. Indeed, we can confidently say Kenya will never be the same again after 7th December 2022, and that is no exaggeration. What do I mean? Well, I'm going to break it all down for you in a series of videos, starting with this particular one. So let's quickly get on with it. But before that, kindly like this video if you're already enjoying the show, and subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. Right, twende kazi. So, what really happened at Kamukunji? Or what exactly was supposed to happen? Indeed, there was a lot of confusion as to what exactly Raila Odinga wanted to achieve by calling Kenyans on a weekday, on a working day, to the historic Kamukunji grounds. Incidentally, the Kamukunji grounds is a place in the country called Kenya that is just choking with history. And the story here is a history of the liberation of the nation called Kenya. And so there's our first clue. The meeting at Kamukunji was about liberation. The liberation of the country called Kenya. But from what? We have elected members. We have a president. What are we being liberated from? Now just hold your horses for a minute. We'll get there shortly. In the draconian Moi days, indeed in days that young Kenyans, it seems, will never be able to fully grasp, will never be able to fully wrap their minds around. In those days, it was not possible to hold a political meeting of any sort, of any kind, anywhere in Kenya without getting into very serious trouble. And I'm talking about a political meeting, a political gathering that was anything else apart from KANU Mama na Baba. And even a KANU meeting had to be authorized after close scrutiny and close background checks of who was coming, who was going to speak, and they're going to speak about what, and what was the objective, etc., etc. And in those days, one day in the 90s, some brave Kenyans, on behalf of us all, made an attempt to make it to the Kamukunji grounds after calling on Kenyans to attend a meeting to discuss the liberation of Kenya from the draconian rule of Moi. These brave Kenyans included people like James Orengo, the late Martin Shikuku, and a few others, and they were riding on the back of a pickup, rushing to the Kamukunji grounds indeed which had already been sealed off by security that was so tight. A house rat, a mouse, could not possibly get through. And I kid you not. And Shikuku and Orengo and the others never made it. They were quickly intercepted by security boys who were just waiting for any sign of anybody heading towards the Kamukunji grounds. To the shallow youngsters born the other day who analyze our politics these days, they will tell you those gallant Kenyans achieved nothing. They didn't make it to Kamukunji. So what did they achieve? They achieved zero. They wasted their time. That's what they'll tell you. But the truth is very different. Those gallant Kenyans had actually done something major. They had made a step in the direction of liberating Kenya. And they had done it with what seemed to be nothing, with what was a small thing. But this small thing was going to gather momentum very fast, so that a handful of months later, in early 1992, at the same historic Kamukunji grounds, a rally, actually a mega rally, no arguments, was held. And for the first time, excited Kenyans were able to listen to opposition leaders sell them the dream of a new Kenya. You see, this first failed attempt to get to Kamukunji told those in government who were thinking that it was just a matter of time. Yeah, the opposition were pushing and they were pushing hard. The opposition could not be stopped. A new strategy had to be found. And meanwhile, the story was splashed all over foreign media. And people in other countries were reading it, reading the story, watching the video clips on their televisions, and wondering, you mean in Kenya, people cannot hold a political meeting? What? That beautiful, peaceful country in Africa that is supposed to be very advanced, people cannot hold any political meeting? They have to be intercepted? They have to be chased around town like common criminals? And yet all they have done is to seek basic human rights. Basic. The human God-given right of free expression. And the world sat up and paid attention. And nothing was the same in Kenya again. And proof of that was a historic meeting. A handful of months later, in early 1992, at the very same Kamukunji grounds. It was packed to capacity. Hardly standing room only. And that meeting was addressed by people like James Orengo, Gitobu Imanyara, then referred to as the young Turks of opposition politics, the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Martin Shikuku, and many others. And it was said that KANU, powerful draconian KANU, and Moi, seated at State House Nairobi and taking in the television pictures coming in, shook to the core of their boots at the crowds of Kenyans, crowds of voters, sending a very clear message to KANU your time is up. And I can't resist pointing to a few similarities as to what is unfolding today, so that we understand better. Even in those days, we had people who came out and said, these people are wasting their time. What are they trying to do? How can they bring down powerful KANU with state machinery na kila kitu? How? These are mad people. They are wasting their time. There are those who did very serious analysis telling us precisely that. But that did not change the truth. Now, today, there are those who are saying very similar things about what happened yesterday at the very same Kamukunji grounds. Now, you make a decision on your own. Are these people cleverer than the people at that time? Are these people right? Or are they wrong? Like those KANU mandarins and sycophants who were talking in those days. You tell me. Bottom line, the meeting at the Kamukunji grounds was about liberating the nation of Kenya from the ghost of the past that is very quickly creeping back into our nation. That evil ghost that says political thinking and political decision making is supposed to be centered at the seat of power, at the presidency, and at top political leadership. The presidency and top political leadership decides that 4 commissioners of the IEBC must go home. They must go home. I'm of course talking about the Cherera 4. And they immediately instigate the means to send those people home. The legal means. Legal in quotes. Because the whole process is kicked off by a parliamentary committee that is really just a kangaroo court. In fact, worse than a kangaroo court. Because in a kangaroo court, there is a semblance of fairness and justice. Because those in that court have the public surrounding them. But in our case, this parliamentary committee, domiciled in the safety of parliament and strictly following orders from State House, sits down with trumped up charges. This Cherera 4 went against our constitution. No sane person can see how these people misbehaved. It is impossible to see how they misbehaved because they were carrying out their duties. Indeed, this Cherera 4 are national heroes, despite the resignation of some recently. But one can argue that was a strategic move, because everybody can see the decision against them was made a long time ago in the privacy of State House Nairobi. And what we're going through now are just emotions. Now that is exactly how KANU used to operate. That is precisely how KANU used to operate. Draconian, dictatorial KANU. And so when you hear people saying KANU is back, that is not hot air. That is the reality. That is 100%, 1000% true. Now I'm going to give you some very shocking piece of information. Inside information. This whole Raila Odinga plan, this pushback against the Ruto government that is taking us back to the Moi days, had been planned, scheduled to kick off early next year, early in the year 2023. But something triggered an early launch, starting this whole manenos very early, ahead of schedule. And of course you can guess what that was. It was the Charera 4 manenos. Now I don't want to make this video too long, and so please allow me to stop there. But I will continue in the next video, where we look very deeply into the Raila Odinga strategy, based on what happened at the Kamukunji grounds. At a meeting, some Kenyans will tell you, some naive Kenyans, nothing happened. No consequence. Ni sawa tu. Let us see if that is the reality. Until then, this is Chris Kumekucha.